Emotionally immature parents drive you crazy even when you're not even 10 anymore. You're like in your 40s, 50s, 60s, they'll drive you insane. So I was sitting and I bumped by this article. It just popped in. That's how Source takes care of me. If you watch my previous video, I was like healing this trauma that I went through family again. And this article showed up and it was like a reminder like, oh, don't forget. Right? And I just wanted to remind you also that don't forget, even though you're going through the spiritual awakening and you're healing so many things, which is fabulous, you're healing a lot of that, this trauma, this emotionally immature parent or parents, I have parents that are like that, have caused a lot of trauma in your body. That when it's being triggered, the beauty is you get to see it and work through it, right? That's why they're still around if they're around, or that's why they still exist within you if they're not around. So I want to read you this list because I thought it's spectacular. It's by Beth Ann Mayer, and I'll link this article, this blog in the description so you can read it for yourself and go through it, because I'm just going to read you the titles. So these are 7 signs. I'm going to tell you 6 signs only because the 7th one doesn't really relate to me, and the 7th one didn't have in depth and it didn't do this for me. But you can read it in the article, okay? So I think these are a lot more powerful. So the first one is you were punished or criticized for displaying emotions. How many of you, in your act of displaying emotions, you were punished or criticized for it? I remember having to live that way, where I was completely disassociated from who I am. Who I am couldn't exist, was not allowed to exist. My emotions were wrong in every possible way. If I was too happy, it was too much. If I was sad, it was too much. There was like this neutral zone I had to be in. And so I lived most of my life in my utopic world because I could see and feel the other realms and dimensions. So I called it Planet X. I lived there most of the time, which of course pissed them off, but it was safer there than being here because I was punished and criticized, made fun of, put down, ignored, silent treatment. Okay? So an inability to express emotions. They couldn't express emotions. And if you do, you're not allowed. Number 2, they relied on you for emotional support. Big one for me. Oh my God, this is such a big one for me. You have no idea. It was like I spent my entire life taking care of these beings, okay, that had no idea how to take care of themselves, let alone take care of their family, let alone any emotions, okay? So no emotional support. They would feel victimized. They would go through whatever they're going through. They would feel bad and sad and emotional. And I had to be very still and silent and just pour emotional support towards them all the time, supporting their emotions. But as number 1 was, they would never support. So what would happen? I disassociated. I've only reassociated I think 5 or 6 years ago when I started the journey 7 years ago, even though I've been doing this career, I've been helping so many people, but I'm also a reflector in human design. That's just how I'm made for over 20 years. But in general, when I came back home to me and started reassociating myself, that was 5-6 years ago, 6-7 years ago when I started reassociating myself. And making sense for me, for my healing. And so, yeah, it allows you to disassociate from yourself because now everybody else's emotions are more important. This is the teaching. And that's why it's so hard for us to stop people pleasing and codependent it feels safer to be attuned to other people's emotions all the time than your own, because with others, you can be there for them. But you don't know how to be there for yourself because nobody has been there for you to display what it is like for a parent to care for your emotions. So you don't have that dialogue in your mind. This is what we're teaching ourselves today. This is what the spiritual awakening is. We're teaching ourselves this. Number 3, you walk on eggshells. Dun, 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 waiting for the next anger outburst or emotional victimhood display. So I added the emotional victimhood display. Remember, I have 2. So I've got 2 examples. One's to me, these are narcissists. One's an overt, one's a covert. But anyway, so you walk on eggshells. You're waiting for the next outburst, whether it's anger or a display of victim, either way to get you in a state of guilt and shame about who you are and what you are. So you're constantly waiting to you're like, but I didn't do anything different. I've mentally thought of all the good ways to do this, not to anger or cause this parent to be super sad and this one to be super angry. I've done everything. I've managed the environment energetically, emotionally, physically. So why is this person angry? And you get really crazy confused. And it's not like this only happens when you're kids. These immature, emotionally immature parents stay emotionally immature till the day they die, right? So you're dealing with the same exact trauma and process and fear, even when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. So, and 70s and 80s if they're still alive, right? So this doesn't end. This list doesn't end, okay? When you get older. This is the trauma in the body. So walking on eggshells, you become now highly attuned to your environment all the time because you want to make the peace. You want to make the peace. You want to make the peace. Oh my God, I know. I remember very clearly how my whole entire face would change and I would feel like I'm a doll, somebody yells at someone, I'm like, ah. And it's like this laughter of uncomfort. It's like when you're out with a couple that are being mean to each other and you don't know what to do with yourself. I'm sure you all recognize this. This is like spending your whole life spending it like that with these people, right? You just don't know what to do with yourself because it's very scary, okay, very unnerving. I just have to fix this. Okay. Fourth, rare display of affection. Holy moly. Rare display of affection. Vulnerable emotions to display and express they have not learned how to display or express vulnerable emotions. Okay. How to do it. Okay. And the parent is usually scared of showing these emotions or even receiving these emotions. So hugs are impossibly rare. I remember I would always go and be the hugger. But hugs are not initiated. And when I do go and hug, there isn't a real hug. There's a stiffness. It's just so weird because there is no words of affection. Like, I love you. You're wonderful. You're amazing. Thank you for being in my life. There's no thank yous. There's nothing basically. It's just dead, emotionless, dead, right? And I don't know if you've gone through this because I sure went through this being an empath and light worker and I love all humans and I want to make everyone happy. I was always the one I love you. Oh, I'm going to miss you when you leave. Oh, you're traveling. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Until today. Okay. But anyway, let's forget that it's until today because thank God I don't live with them. Number 5. You felt little comfort with your emotions. So, what happened when you felt sad and angry? Now, this is a good question to ask yourself. When you were with your emotionally immature parent or parents, what happened when you felt sad or angry? Nothing. You completely got neglected. Emotional neglect. Like you're nothing. Like you're absolutely nothing, right? Your emotions, you can go burn in hell with them. So I remember so much. But there's even a time, so I'm trying to let you know that even it doesn't have to only be in your childhood. You may be suffering this also when you're older. Over 12 years ago, my parents got divorced. Oh my God, more than 12 years ago. It was a year after I left my first narcissist husband. That was 18 or 19 years ago. It's been that long. Anyway, yeah, you can read up about that in my book, Happily Ever After. You'll find the link in the description. Worth reading. Trust me, I wrote it at the time as a blog, never thinking I would write it and publish it, but I did to help everyone in this situation to see clearly what truly happens. And those who don't know what's happening can at least empathize now with victims of abuse. Anyway, So you feel comfortable. So what happened when you felt sad or angry? Nothing. When my parents got divorced and I was displaying like 18 years ago, I had just gotten divorced from a psychopath, basically a psychologically insane human being. So I was not in the right place. I was emotionally disturbed. They couldn't hear my emotions. One of them would just jump and be like, well, I went through that too, and I did this, and I went through that. And the other one kept refusing to hear me. So at some point when I was so emotional that they finally got divorced, which I had wanted since I was a child, but when they did it, when I was like in my mid 30s, I was traumatized by it because I couldn't express. So I couldn't be angry because the way they did it was horrible. You know, I couldn't be angry at the way it was done and how unjust it was like, and all the crap that went through and all the backstabbing they did to each other. And I was showing my anger, and one of my parents refused for me to have that emotion. And I had it, and they cut me off, of course, for like months, the silent treatment and all that, and went talked rubbish about me behind my back. Anyway, so you can't feel comfortable with your emotions. So if you are feeling sad or angry, how were you treated? Just think about these questions. Why are we thinking about these? Because you want them to come out and surface. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm in denial, I already healed it. Let it come out and surface. This is the time. There's no other time. This is the time. This is the healing. This is the spiritual awakening. This is where everything's changing. This is from 3D to 5D. Let them surface. Pockets of energy. Let them come. Feel the sadness. Remember the memory and let it go. You're not trying to remember it. If this is provoking something, let that, whatever's being provoked, pop up and disappear. You're not trying to make this happen. Never try healing never push yourself to heal. It's not going to work. Okay? Let source take care of it. And number 6 is you lived in the right or wrong, black or white. It was always black or white, right or wrong. So it's like an extreme way of thinking, right? And you're never right. You're always wrong. Okay? You're never right. They're always right. Okay? Always invalidating your emotions. Okay? They're always correct. You are never right no matter what. The way you acted, the way you behaved, who you are, everything about you is wrong. Okay? So there was my way or the highway. My way is correct. My way of thinking, my way of dealing, my way of handling. You are wrong. You are wrong. You are wrong. What does this make us end up feeling like? That you start to view yourself as a really bad person. So it's all your fault. Now, how many of us have that mantra inside? It's my fault. If you're walking by somebody and a friend passes you by and she doesn't say hi, you're going to get hurt and you're going to wonder, oh, what did I do wrong? Did she not see me? Is it from our last conversation? We didn't have much. Did somebody say something? You're going to figure some way, somehow, your mind is going to go in that direction instead of just like, oh, she probably didn't see me, which is probably the truth, right? But because of that trauma and insanity, your thoughts are constantly going to think that you are bad and you did something wrong. Okay, and you're the one in the wrong and everyone else is in the right. How many of you feel that way? Oh, it took me years to like detangle that. It's like, it's me, it's my fault, I'm the one, I did. But then you don't have enough history to know what you did wrong. You start to invent things in your head just because that's the pattern. Anyway, so those are the number 6s. So then I was like, oh, okay, let me see what else. Another article, this one I found, it wasn't by source, but I found today for this video. And there were 3 other points that were super, super important. Okay. And this article is by Ashleen Graff. She's got a lot more points and a lot more things. I'll share that link with you too, so you can go read it if you choose to. So the first point was overly critical. Overly critical. I hear a compliment from one of my parents maybe twice a year, and it's a stupid compliment. They're nothing. They're basically like, oh, your hair looks good today, or yeah, no, I think, did I hear anything else? Or yeah, even when I lose weight, nothing. But if I gain weight, hell yeah, here comes all the criticism, right? So there's lots of blame and criticizing their children. They criticize your mistakes, your decisions, your personality traits. They're really harsh. They criticize your own emotions. They criticize everything about you. So one of my parents there's nothing else. They cannot compliment no matter what. They cannot say something kind. They cannot say something nice. Nothing out of their mouth can be kind and nice. And if by accident it comes out, immediately it'll be slapped right next to it with but a criticism, right? But it's impossible for them not to criticize who you are. And so who do you become? You become someone who criticizes themselves all the time, finds default in yourself. Oh, the way I look, the way I eat, the way I think. Oh my God, my dad never ever will let me eat in peace around him. Okay? You ate too much. Put that down. You'll have cholesterol. You're like, wait. I just care for your health. Bullshit. Because never once, even when I was eating healthy, did I even receive a compliment for it, right? It was more about my compliment for themselves. Like, oh yeah, now you're eating the way I eat, right? It's just horrid. Absolutely horrible. Okay? So pay attention to that. Why are you paying attention? Because you want to notice the thoughts in your head. How critical am I? So that you can start to recognize that these are not your thoughts and these are not your words. These are theirs. They've never been yours, and they're lies because they're emotionally immature. They're narcissistic. They don't have the ability to feel. They have no empathy. None. Zero. Anyway, you want to know more? Go to a lot of my videos. I talked about narcissists if you're interested. Second point, controlling. Okay? Lack emotional intelligence, rigidity, no compassion or care, feeling of entitlement, and grandiose. Okay, so very controlling. I don't know. You guys had like these crazy controlling parents. Okay, and they call them helicopter parents. Well, some of them are helicopter, and some of them are just psycho controlling, right? So they do lack incredible emotional intelligence. They're seriously very rigid. They have no compassion, no care, and no empathy. They do not care. Okay? All they care about is how they can control the situation and how they can control you. You are not acting and being and displaying yourself the way that they imagine you that you need to be so that they can feel good about themselves, which they never do. So if you jump through a million hoops 1,000 times for the rest of your life, they will never, ever be satisfied by who you are. The only time, and I'll give you this pointer, the only time they're satisfied with who you are is when you become pretty bitchy to them. Because then they back up. When you stand up and say, no, this is just stupid, okay? Because they're very entitled, right? Very entitled. They will never say sorry. Never, ever. And if they do, it's like backhanded sorry, and they'll use the terminology, well, I'm sorry you're feeling this way. They'll never apologize for them. They take zero responsibility for themselves, right? So they're very entitled. It's all about me and how wonderful I am. And they will change stories around in their heads to suit their victimhood, to suit the reason they've given you the silent treatment. They've stopped talking to you, right? Instead of apologizing to you or saying, I'm so sorry I did this to you, or being like a normal human being, they lack complete intelligence. I think they even lack mental and emotional intelligence. Idiots. Okay. Third one is dismissive, which is really, really sad. Emotional distancing. They lack empathy. Okay. They distance themselves emotionally and disconnect emotionally. They encourage the kids, toughen up. Stupidity. Okay. So focused on their own lives. They are unconcerned with their kids. They're like so focused on themselves, right? So focused on themselves. Yeah, all these traits, they're like doing it from a good place. Cool. We all know. We all like to give excuses like, well, and it's true. We can give a million excuses to bad behavior, and we can suffer all the time as long as we want, and we can be like, blame ourselves and be like, well, or give them credit for their lack of knowledge. However, there's so much information out there right now that if somebody truly wants to look into themselves and rid themselves of the rage and the self-hate that they have from inside, they just have to go find therapy. Seek, but even that, they're too good for. They're too good for. And even if they do go, they'll sit and say, well, I'm antidepressants and I'm on anxiety pills. Take care of me. You all left me. You don't love me. All that nonsense. Okay. Now, what are the consequences? What are the consequences for our generation to have gone through this? Okay. The consequences of such parenting is struggling with feelings of shame, loneliness, feeling like a burden, okay, guilty for internalizing blame, even inside of you, and you're like blaming them, you're feeling guilty over blaming them and internalizing the blame, and feeling constantly afraid. Holy, come on. I checklist all of these. I've checklisted them all. Honestly, look, this is just truth, okay? Shame right now is barely there. It's here. After the situation that happened last week, I was like, ashamed of myself, but it's barely there after all the work I've done on myself. The shame is real. Loneliness, it's pangs. It comes in pangs. It comes in like, it's like waves of like, but I have a full life. But it's this loneliness. It's due to this childhood and the crazy list I just shared with you. Okay? Feeling like a burden. Yes, sometimes I feel like a burden. How many of you feel like a burden on other people? Like, do you feel like a burden sometimes? Like, I don't want to be too much. I'm a burden. Well, feeling too much and like a burden is due to these extremely emotionally lacking, unemotionally, what are they called again? I call them narcissists. So emotionally immature parents, it's due to that. But that isn't true for most of the world, right? So if you bump into someone, let me just continue. Guilt for internalizing blame. That's one that I was starting to see. I was like, I feel so bad. I shouldn't be blaming them this much. Shouldn't I get over it? Shouldn't I feel more zen? Shouldn't I? Blah, blah, blah. But I've done all this before, right? So when it started to show up, this is the cool thing about being consciously aware. When the emotion starts to show up of an old pattern and something you've worked through, it's actually best to see it and be like, I'm internalizing the feeling of guilt because I'm blaming them. Well, I'm allowed to blame them. Between me and me, I can do that. I'm not a bad person if I do that within me and me. I don't care what all the spiritual gurus are saying in the world right now. Screw that. You need to feel that feeling. You need to feel that feeling. You need to allow yourself to feel that feeling and feel the permission of it. Okay? And feeling constantly afraid. Fear lives in the body. Fear of so many stuff is in the body. Even fear of not getting the spiritual awakening correct. Think about it. If you're even fearing that I can't get the spiritual awakening correctly done, it is a fear of the black and white, the right or wrong, that you're always wrong. Okay? That is in us, right? See it for what it is. So I'm going to give you little tricks to do. Okay? Now, if you are feeling the shame, I want you to simply feel ashamed. Don't be like, well, I've done all this work. I can't. I don't have to feel shame. No. Feel the freaking shame. Let me check if this is on. Feel the shame. Feel it and write down, I am so ashamed of myself. Why? Why am I ashamed of myself? Write all the reasons you're ashamed of yourself. Write it, and then read it. And then as you read it, just be like, these are pockets of energy that don't belong to me. That's with shame. Okay? Shame is one of the darkest spaces to be in. And this is what they do. These kinds of parenting style. Okay? Loneliness. When loneliness shows up, let it be there. Be like, I was so alone. growing up my whole life, even until today, I get pangs and waves of loneliness. And it's just because my emotions were not being expressed. I wasn't allowed to express how I feel. I wasn't even allowed to express them to myself. So what are you going to do with this today? With loneliness, when the wave hits you, feel it and empathize with yourself. Fill up your bucket with so much love for you and be like, you know what? You were ignored. Your emotions were invalidated. You meant nothing to anybody. What you thought, how you felt, your personality. And so that was very lonely world. Okay. But today I am here with you. You're talking to you. I am here with you. I'm validating you. You're not lonely. I am actually here with you. I'm accepting you. Because don't forget, as a child, we're actually taking over their voices and the way of how they saw us and how they perceived us and spoke to us. And that becomes the voices in your head today. These are the voices in your head today. Okay. They sound like you. They're not you. Okay. It's part of the program. This is how we are on earth. Okay. So conscious awareness is super important, which, these are not my thoughts. Okay. These are thoughts. They're not just who I am. They're thoughts. They're a recorder. Somebody's been recording them. Tons of videos on this. You can go through on my channel. Feeling like a burden. When somebody's like, oh, I'll drive you here. You're like, oh, no, it's okay. Notice that. Notice it. Be like, oh, I'm a burden. But look, I'm receiving something. Something's gifting me something. Source is taking care of me. Shall I take it? Shall I receive it and just see what happens? Okay. And I can see that the version of me is a burden, and I can be like, you know what? You can feel like a burden as much as you like, sweetheart. And I'm going to take your hand, and we're going to receive kindness from someone right now. That's a way to deal with burden. Guilt for internalizing blame. That's a big one. So if you're going to internalize blame, you're like, oh, bad people. Why did they do that? What is wrong with my dad? What is wrong with my mom? What is wrong with whoever's been doing this to you? Be with it. Screw it. Just be with it. Blame as much as you like, as much as you can, and love yourself through it. You have your back when you're going through that. Be like, I'm allowed to blame. Who the hell came and told me I'm not allowed to? All the religions saying you have to be and forgive. I'm allowed to blame. Between me and me, I can sit and blame and be okay with blaming. What happens? The pocket of energy has the freedom to leave. That's how you felt for your whole life. You might as well recognize it and accept it about who you are. What the hell? What's all this rejection stuff? Forget rejection stuff. Second, last but not least, feeling constantly afraid. And when you're afraid, my loves, that's what I do with me. When I'm afraid, I hug a pillow. I don't have one right here. I hug myself. Because I'm afraid. What do you want when you're afraid? You want to feel that somebody's taking care of you. You want to feel safe when you're afraid. And the good way to do that is when you hug yourself and you can caress yourself. Just like that. You're allowed to be afraid. You're allowed to be afraid, and just take care of yourself during that period. So I hope this list you enjoyed. I'm raging from it, which is really good. And if you're raging from it, that's amazing. Any emotion that's showing up when you're listening to this or reading in the articles, I want you to celebrate their presence. Anger, sadness, rage, confusion, loneliness, guilt, shame. Celebrate their presence, because something has given you the opportunity for that pocket of energy to be seen by you. Because you haven't seen it. We've been disassociated from ourselves, meaning everyone else's emotions mattered more than our own. And now we have the freedom and the right to allow these emotions to be loved by us the way we had loved the emotions coming out of our parents, to make them feel better. Reverse it, give it back to you. All right, hope you like this. I'm really gonna go. I've got people painting my walls upstairs. Yay! Okay, so please share your comments. Which one of the list really resonated, or did all of them? How does it make you feel? What are you feeling about yourself? Share your truth. If you like this, subscribe. It makes a difference. If you subscribe for the algorithms, that would be really cool. Hit a thumbs up and like. If you liked it and it made a difference to you, share this. Please share it with as many people as you like. Leave your comments below. I also have another beautiful channel with a very beautiful soul that I work with, Mel Brown. And you can go to Expand with Mel and Rain. I end up channeling a lot of information there, and we really talk about deep stuff, and we're shifting the program. And I make sure to channel things to give you new insights, to be able to shift the program within you so that you can be more free to actually enjoy life. Even when mayhem happens, you are free. So take care of yourselves. Oh, and go to Buy Me a Coffee. You're going to notice I've got a few fabulous guides there that you can get. And I have ebooks that are so delicious that I really think they're called Mind Tweaks. And they're a series of 4. Choose one, delight in it, and see it. Also on Buy Me a Coffee, Mel has her beautiful jewelry. They're so energetically amazing. Earrings and necklaces and bracelets. Mwah, just delightful. Go purchase there, support us, please. You can even donate money there to support my channel and support Mel, and this would be fabulous. And you'll also discover that you can actually get a freebie. If you go to the descriptions below, I have 11 essential questions for self-discovery. And trust me, go through these questions once a month if you can. Just go through them. Write the thing, purge what needs to be purged, see what needs to see, then go again and go again. This will benefit you throughout your journey, throughout your life, because you're constantly going to be needing to ask yourself these questions and get clarity. These questions are giving you clarity, are allowing you to release and open. And every time you finish the set of questions, you pop open into another dimension of time within yourself. Trust me, incredible guidance. Take care. Bye.